Welcome to another episode of Throttle Stop Garage. In this episode, we're going to have a look at how we make urethane bushings. Stay tuned. One of the best ways to improve the handling of your car is to replace the old, worn-out, soft rubber bushings with brand new, much more firm polyurethane bushings. So we've all done this for years. I've run urethane bushings of one type or the other in all of my cars for almost the last 20 years. And hey, they come in different grades. Some of them are a little bit better than others. And sometimes you just can't find the right bushing for your application. And I hope that's what finds you here today, because in today's DIY, we're going to have a look at a process that I use to make urethane bushings. Now, I don't have a whole lot of experience doing this. I bought a kit. I'm going to be pouring my own, and I'm going to take you through step by step how to get this done. Now, I'm not that kind of masochist. I was not looking to make every single part for my car. I actually tried really hard to buy off-the-shelf urethane bushings for all positions in my suspension that were going to require that kind of bushing. And yet, despite my best efforts, I just couldn't either get the quality of the bushing I wanted, or the bushings that I bought that I kind of liked didn't fit. So this is a situation we might find ourselves in. And in that case, all you have left is you've got to do it yourself. All right, so just to show you that I really did try, here is a set of bushings for the Corvette C4 suspension parts. Again, I've run urethane bushings in cars for a lot of years. I just don't like them. Listen to that. They don't move very freely. These are the ones that you get, you know, Summit Performance or wherever. Everyone sells this brand. And there's no provision on the inside to hold any grease or anything that would lubricate the bushing. And when you put them together, they're so tight that they squeeze all the lubrication out, so that you end up with a lot of stiction. Okay, so it just doesn't move very freely. It's even worse when it's in the arm and it's compressed, because it fits the arm, which is good. It fits the arm quite tightly, right? You can push it in by hand just so far, and then as soon as it runs up, as soon as it runs up against the taper, you run out of the ability to push it in. I should have tested that before, because now I can't get it out. So even the details, like the radius of that inside taper, are not right. So it gets really tight as you push it in, and then it sticks quite a lot when you're rotating it. So I tried those, didn't like those, took them out, bought another set. Actually had to work really hard to find this set and to be able to get it. These are a better quality bushing that I've used before, so I actually quite like these in their design for things like this. The sleeve protrudes out past the bushing, so when you're clamping it, you're going to clamp on the metal sleeve, and the bushing shouldn't rotate, but the sleeve should rotate in the bushing. That should be fine. It also has, these are tight. It also has knurling on the inside, which you'll never be able to show. My cameras won't be able to show you, but there is knurling on the inside, so that there is a chance to hold a little bit of the lubrication that these bushings need to work, to put them in. I've run these on cars for years and years and years, and they don't even squeak. The other ones squeak. These ones usually are pretty good. Now, this is a fitment for a C4 Corvette, and so this bushing, instead of being a two-piece top hat, is a single piece. And when I go to push it in, here's my problem. The bushing is narrower than the bushing holder. I think you can see that. It wouldn't matter which way you put it in. It's not going to, it's going to go through, but the lip isn't right. So it's for the wrong application. I think the later versions of the C4 Corvette lower control arm must have had a somewhat narrower bushing holder. Again, I'm right up against the machine surface on the outside, and it's almost flush to this side. There's no way. I'm 3 millimeters, 1/8 of an inch. This isn't going to stretch. That doesn't work that way. So that's garbage. So now we're going to have to turn around and make our own. It's okay, it only costs hundreds of dollars to buy these parts. They'll all be up on eBay later at some point. To go from bad to worse, this is the upper control arm dog bone, and now I know why the suspension was on eBay for me to buy. So if I turn it, again you can't see it really well. I think you can see it okay if you look at it this way. It's sitting dunk, so it's been impacted. Okay, so it's been impacted and it's driven this way. I had no way of knowing that this was like that once it's when it's in its installed position. I couldn't tell. That's what happens when you put fasteners in single shear. So it's being held here, it's free to move here. That force smacked it, bent it. We weren't even able to tell with the part. It looked good. Okay, so that's quite a bit of not good. This is now garbage, so I can't use that part. And they're hard to find. So now I have to mount my upper control arm completely differently in order to get around some of these design problems. And with that, let's go make some bushings.
Where to start? Well, where else do you start? You start by doing all the measurements. So even though the lower control arms and upper control arms for this particular application have a machined inner surface, which is not true for all cars, it did require that I measure it up just to check to make sure everything was round and what size it was exactly so the mics come out and we get it all done. I also take a little bit of time to measure each point as precisely, I guess, as I can. Again, we're dealing with a squishy bushing here, so this is me just being obsessive and a bit compulsive, but it's also good practice. I haven't touched my mics in a few years, so there you go. But once you get it all measured up, then we're able to tell how round the bushing holder is and what size it is exactly. And then we will go ahead and 3D print them. Now, I didn't take any footage of the 3D printing because I printed these in ABS. And when I print ABS parts, I have to do it inside an enclosure, and I don't have a window on my enclosure, so it's pretty boring. Anyway, I had some leftover ABS from the previous manifold build, the lovely green. So I used that. So now that I know what the sizes have to be, I'm just tuning the parts so they're just exactly right. You're going to notice lots of bits and pieces of that ABS flying all over the place here, but caliper is always being used just to make sure we're getting it close. And then finally, we're going to check the radiuses. Those are my radius gauges there. So the radiuses are going to be checked and shown to be right. And then we're ready to go. Last little bits of tuning before we're happy. And then that razor blade sitting on the table there, I use that to scrape down the inside just to take off any of the final marks. So now those molds are fully made. Now I'm going to attach this to a piece of 3/4 inch. This is Baltic birch plywood. Doesn't have to be, could be anything. Because I'm going to, be tapping and vibrating this mold setup to make sure that all the air bubbles and things are out of my urethane parts. And yeah, I don't have to buff my aluminum pieces to make them look nice, but why not? Everything's good practice. Anyway, and that little tool for knocking the corners off aluminum, that little air tool, boy, that works good. So happy I bought that. All right, so we're just about done with the cleanup. It also does make cleaning the material that's going to stick on here a little bit better. Draw our holes in, sweep all of this stuff off, and then we're going to get going with the fasteners. So I'm just using some, yeah, you didn't think I was going to drop a brad point bit onto my metal table, did you? Anyway, I've got some brass threaded fasteners that are going in here, just 1024, and then we're done. So that piece is all ready to go. So we're going to lock it all down as tightly as we can. I couldn't remember how these fit in, so one of those positions is right about there. That's right. And we're going to lock everything down. That's as tight as these can get. I'm not going to worry about sealing between the parts. I just didn't think it was going to be necessary in this case. So now spray it all down with the release agent. So I'm using this Man 400 release agent. So you squirt it on the inside, you rub it around with a brush. This is what they say to do. Then you squirt it again, you leave it for a half hour.
All right, so we're ready to go with the pour. So this is a 2-part urethane. It's from Smooth On. I'm using PMC 770, which is a Shore A70 hardness, which I think is going to be okay for this particular bushing. I'm not asking it to do a whole lot. Anyway, this is the one that I chose. I had to pay for all that myself, so you go ahead and choose whatever you like. Anyways, part A, part B, it's a 2-to-1 mix. So I've worked out the approximate volumes from the parts, just because in my CAD software I can do that, and I've determined that I need about 40 grams to have more than enough to do the 3 bushings that we're going to pour. I've also set up my degassing pot over here, so it's just a straight vacuum chamber. It's the cheapest thing I could buy on Amazon. It's pretty nasty. The pump will actually smoke once it gets down. And I don't need to pull a full 30 inches of mercury in order to get this done. In fact, at the altitude that I live at, you can't even get to 30 inches of mercury. So we're not going to worry about it. We're going to put it in there. We're going to try to get as much air out of it as we can before we pour. But I also know that I only have a few minutes. Once these 2 parts are mixed, I only have a few minutes to work. Not that I'm expecting to find anything at the bottom of any of this. Given that it's a 2-part, I'm not going to use the same stir stick for each part. The stirring's always the problem, right? Throw that one out, just to make sure we don't make stupid mistakes. I did split the stir stick in half just because it won't fit. I'm also going to add some colorant. So this is just a black tint. It's the same one, Smooth On. I've had this for, gosh, maybe 15 years. So just a few drops is more than enough to do it. And we're putting it into an old coffee cup and then down into the pot, clamp it down, put the vacuum on it, and then really carefully pour into the mold parts.
So there's part A going in, and I'm just carefully watching that scale, and as you get near the end, you just stop.
I can add a little of the colorant into it, just a couple of drops. Less than a gram is all I put in there. And then I know I can stir that, disperse the colorant through it, and then I'm not wasting time when I go to put part B in, and I have to make sure that everything's going to be thoroughly mixed. So make sure you scrape the top and sides, the bottom, everything. I'm using such a big cup because I do expect that this will froth up once we have it under vacuum. I'm not going to cure the part, by the way, under vacuum or under pressure. I'm just going to do it straight up. Let's do it that way so we don't have to do math.
Yeah, it's a 2-to-1 mix by weight, so it's pretty easy to sort it out.
Go as fast as you can with doing the job thoroughly. Okay. Pop it in. Throw it on. And then very, very carefully, we're just going to pour each mold. Try to do this so you can see it, for heaven's sake. That would be kind. It's pretty thick, but
I'm adding in enough material here just to cover the bottom flange part of the bushing. So I'm not pouring it all in at once, then I'm giving it a couple of taps and then I'm pouring it in. This was the first bushings that I made, so I only did it in 2 pours, where in the subsequent bushings I figured out that 3 was about right. And then you wait 16 hours. Yeah, like, subscribe. Come on. Make the algorithm work for us. All hail the algorithm. Okay, then it all comes apart. Being very careful, and we see what we got.
Okay, so it's the next day. It's been 16 hours. We're now going to take these out of the fixture and see what we have. Then all I'm going to do is spray these down again with the release agent, re-pour another set of bushings, this time using the correct volume. You always learn on the first set. Hopefully everything went well. And then it's just going to be rinse and repeat until I get them all done. Everything is going to get carefully put into bins. They're all different sizes. By the time I get this done, I'm never going to remember what any of this is, so then it all goes into a case and then we're done with it from there. Okay, just top tip. Try to keep yourself organized. Anyway, I think everything's okay, but who knows? All right, so let's roll. All right, let's do the lower control arm first. So I'm just, oh yeah, I don't have to do anything. That's kind of neat. Just gotta pull it straight off. That looks really good. Say, I'm happy with that. I don't see any bubbles on it. The rubber appears to be fine. I just have to focus, ease it out. Like butter. Maybe a little bit too much release agent on that, but will not affect the part. It just, why would you want it to release poorly? So just a little flash here around the edge, right? No big deal to take that off. That's good. That's a good part. Okay, lower control arm. First bushing, done. Same story. There is not a void. There are shirts though. Don't forget, merch store. It is hard to shoot these given how black they are, but just 3 drops actually of that tint is all I'm using. But I think you can see, I'm just looking at this flange area here. I have not yet pulled this one out of the bottom mold, so the male mold. But there isn't a, like, there's no bubbles, no voids. Maybe that's the better way to do it. These are really good looking parts. Okay, just a little crack and out it comes. Anyway, I'm just going to be rinsing and repeating that one until we're done. Make sure you put it in the right bin when you're organizing it. So if you've got a 3D printer, I have no idea why you would be buying bushings. You can get exactly what you want for pennies. It's a firm rubber, but it's it's certainly not hard, and it's pretty much what I want. Now, if it doesn't work out and it's not what I want, I'm keeping the setup, right? So just turn around and make other ones. Who cares? So now we're just going to clean these up. Just strip off any of the little bits of stuff that's still stuck to them. It's no big deal to do. In fact, half of it I just do with the airline. Put them back together onto the board, and then pour another set of bushings.
I'm not going to bother you with how many times I did this, but many, many times. It took about a week to get it all done. I just missed it on the release agent after that first application. It really was all that was needed. Just the briefest mist, and then, yeah, got the power tools out to actually tighten things down. I could get the bushings pulled from the molds and this entire process done and a new set poured and finished in about 40 minutes. And that includes at least 15 minutes worth of smacking them to try to drive all the air that I could get out of it.
Be a little bit hard to show. I'm trying though. But as I'm going through the pour, and I am kind of time limited here, but I'm just doing it in stages, stepping it up one little bit at a time. And it's because as you do that, you're going to get bubbles that are in the bottom, and then they're just going to kind of come to the top. I've also scavenged from my waste bin, just the bottom of one of the cups, and I'm just using a little bit of that off-cast urethane as a scraper to just scrape around the tops. A little bit easier to do.
Just try to be as careful as you can with each one of the steps. You don't want to introduce any extra air, so I'm just adding a little bit, just enough in. I was doing these as a 3-stage pour. Yeah, I'm also trying to be as neat and tidy as I can. I don't want this stuff slopped all over the shop. I'm trying to, wipe things down with a towel, and then I did discover that, hey, scrape the top off. It makes it a lot easier to deal with later in terms of cleanup. So get the top of that mold looking as neat and tidy as I can, and that's where that rubber scraper ended up being helpful later on. And then more smacking it on the bench, like probably 10 minutes worth of that for each pour. Drive out all the air that you can. And this is the final set. So I had it down to a fine science at this point. But now that we're done, we have to take them in and get them cured.
Hello. All right. So with doggy approval, these are going to go into the oven for an 8-hour stint at about 80 degrees Celsius. Yeah, my wife isn't home. Take them out. Even the one that wasn't showing signs of being a little not round is looking like it's recovered. Ooh. Okay, they're quite a bit firmer in the way they feel. Doggo's coming in for inspection. Doesn't care for the smell. It does make your house smell, so do this while your wife is away. Or spouse. Yeah, I think those will do. So the bushings are out of the oven now, so they've been off-gassed, so we've cooked them. I've even trimmed, I've trimmed this set up nice just so you can see them. But I just wanted to show you the fit. Again, these are different. The sizes are different. I can't even make... These two sizes are a different size, so I can't even make a common part. The radiuses are all precise, right? And when we watch them go in the hole, they're just a perfect fit. Absolutely perfect. There's no slop. They're in there. They're going to have a solid part in there as well, so that'll come up nicely. Same for the other side. All right, they just... We put the bushing in, and you can just hear it sliding as it goes in. Nice fit. The lower control arm is the same. Again, now I have the correct radius on the side of the bushing, so it doesn't get tight as it goes in. It's, again, just that perfect fit. And that's why we work so hard on the molds. We know that we're going to get a little bit of shrinkage. Just a little bit. It's less than 0.5%. So you can actually make your bushings just subtly oversized. You got to play around with it a little bit. I got lucky, but we'll take it. So, I mean, that's got no play to it at all. It fits in there nice. It's not going to come out or rattle itself. Okay, and with that, we're done. Okay, so now that these are all done, I've cooked them in the oven for 8 hours. We've gone through all the processes to make the best quality bushing that we can. We know that our radiuses are all fine. Everything is fitting just beautifully. And again, I'm looking forward to putting this part of the project to bed and getting rid of the whole thing. I'm done with making bushings. It was a long process, only doing 3 of the shells at a time. It did take over a week in order for me to get this done. But hey, in the grand scheme of things, it was just 40 minutes here and there for a week. It wasn't that bad. So it does take a little bit of time to do, but you end up with a really high quality product. I am really impressed with how this worked out. There's far fewer bubbles and bumps in my urethane bushings than I've seen in the ones that I pay a lot of money for. So I may never actually buy urethane bushings again. I might just start making them. Anyway, I won't. If I can buy them, I'll actually buy them. I won't be going through this again. But for this car, it's worth doing that extra little bit to get these things to fit. So hey, thanks for coming along for the ride. I hope it's been interesting, and I hope you've learned something about making your own high quality polyurethane bushings in your garage. You can do it. It takes almost no tools. It takes mostly time and just a little bit of care. All right, with that, keep your stick on the ice, and we'll catch you on the next episode.